All right, welcome back everyone. Today we have a special project for you. We're gonna be showing you how to make a 5-panel baseball cap with nothing but your domestic sewing machine. And this one right here is a Singer Heavy Duty. The link for that will be in the description below if you wanna go and purchase one of those. It was only like $100, but any domestic will do. And other than that, we're gonna show you the tricks and tips on making this professional baseball cap on your domestic. So yeah, let's just get started. So to start, you'll need your pattern, your buckle or snap, a brim, a size strip, a sweatband, and whatever fabric you are going to be using, and then of course your sewing machine. All these supplies are available on capsupplyco.com. We'll have a link in the description. So start off by tracing your pattern, and this is a downloadable pattern, so it's easy to just get it and go. And you're gonna need to trace and cut 2 tops, 2 sides, and then 1 front panel. So we went ahead and added a interfacing to the front panel, and this will give it a nice structured front. Then you're gonna wanna take your 2 top panels and put the right sides together and sew the top seam. And we are adding a 1/4 inch seam allowance for this pattern. Then you're gonna wanna go ahead and trim the excess fabric, and this will help from bunching up when you add on the top stitching and bias tape. So we have 2 different options for adding on your bias tape and top stitching. So the yellow one is going to be one you can find at any fabric store, and we also are gonna have a link for that in the description for a little kit. And the second one is more of an industrial sewing machine one, but we made it work for this video just to show you the 2 different options, and we went ahead and just taped this on. So now you need to put on your twin needle, and this is super easy to set up. Just thread 2 spools, and that's pretty much it. And we left that straight stitch, and we put 4 for the length. That's just because it's the highest length on our sewing machine. So now all you have to do is put your bias tape through your folder and pretty much start stitching, and you'll see that the bottom seam is covered and you'll have a nice top stitch. And of course, it's gonna have a zigzag on bottom. This is because there are not 2 bobbins on a domestic sewing machine. So now grab your front panel and your top panels and sew along the top seam. If you taped on your folder, you're gonna wanna remove that and just do a standard straight stitch. And again, this is 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once you have it stitched, remove the excess fabric. Then you want to put back on your bias tape folder and do a top stitching across that seam. Grab your side panels and sew them on right sides together. This part may be a little tricky. You're going to want to work with the fabric and keep pulling it along that curve, and in the end it should line up and you should be good to go. Again, you're going to want to cut off the excess fabric from that seam. Go ahead and repeat this process for the other panel. From there, you're going to want to add your bias tape folder back onto your sewing machine with your twin stitch and then sew along those two arcs.
Good evening, everybody.
I just found the keys to a city. The beats are big and the lights are pretty. So why can't we get to the busy where the dreams are in the sky? You got me high on wonders and why. You got me high, I think I might die. I'm face to face with the mirror. I've never felt so one with another. So why can't it all be clearer? Don't you see the sign? It's not fair. Let me put my fingers through your hair. It's not fair.
Now you're going to want to grab some fabric for your brim and trace your brim on that fabric and go down just a little bit more to give yourself an extra bit of fabric for that sleeve. Then just stitch around that curve.
I just found the keys to a city. The beats are big and the lights are pretty. So why can't we get to the busy where the dreams are in the sky?
You will want to cut off the bottom and cut about a 1/4 inch around the curve.
Face with the mirror. I've never felt so one with another. So why can't it all be clearer? Don't you see the sign? It's not fair. Let me put my fingers through your hair. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Turn that sleeve inside out, then guide your brim into the sleeve. And the reason we left about a 1/4 inch on the outside is so you can guide your brim on top of that excess fabric. The next step, you'll want to put a zipper foot or any sort of narrow foot on your sewing machine and sew as close as you can on the back edge of that brim. We found it helpful to pull the fabric a little bit so that fabric is nice and tight on that brim. Now we are going to be adding stitches on the brim, and as you can see, we have a stitch guide, and if you need help finding one of these, let us know. If you don't have one, you can use any sort of magnetic guide that will help edge off that brim and get you a nice clean stitch all the way around And it's helpful to have a stitch guide because you can adjust it for all the different lengths, and it just makes the process so much more efficient and a nicer look in the end. And if you don't want to add the stitches on your brim, you don't have to. It's not mandatory. It just helps hold that fabric down and adds a nice little look.
You know, back when I was in the academy, we would follow every toast with a song.
Now we're adding a side strip along the bottom edge of the crown, and this helps when you're putting on the sweatband and keeps that bottom edge nice and sturdy. And again, all these supplies are available at capsupplyco.com, and if they're not on the website, feel free to email them and they will send you whatever you need. Go ahead and mark the middle of your brim, and if you order your brims from Cap Supply Co., they will have a little notch that shows the middle, and then fold your front panel in half and mark that as well. Line up those two marks and then start sewing from the middle to the outside. This will help align your brim and your crown to make it nice and centered. And again, we recommend using a zipper foot. That way you'll be nice and flush up against that brim. Now you want to cut off the remainder fabric from your brim. Get as close as you can to the crown without cutting off your side strip.
That's an interesting twist.
So we ordered these bias tape folders off of Amazon. The link will be in the description, and this is going to cover off the back arch opening. As you can see, you put your bias tape through the folder and iron it. And then you fold that in half and sew that onto your back arch. And we went ahead and ironed it a lot just so that it holds. This kit did come with a presser foot guide, but we didn't use that. We just went ahead and sewed it on and held it in place. As you can see, it covers up that back edge very nice. So now we're going to be adding on the sweatband. For this step, we made our own little guide, and it's super easy to do. We just use a heavier weight paper, and it was honestly just from a front of a notebook, and folded that so that the sweatband fit in there snug. And you want to make sure it fits in there super snug. It has to be right on, or else it might move out of alignment. You're going to want to feed your sweatband in and tape it down so that the sweatband is all the way to the left of the needle, and align it up with the stitch lines that are already on the sweatband. Then you'll want to roll your bottom edge over on your crown and start stitching about 1/4 inch away from the bottom. As you can see, this guide will help keep the sweatband in one place as you top stitch and sew that sweatband onto the bottom of the crown. Then keep sewing around the front. And again, roll your side over and stitch all the way through the back. And there you have it, your sweatband is sewn on with a top stitch, and it's nice and flush on the inside of the cap. So now we're going to be adding on the buckle or the poly snap, whatever closure you decide to go with, and you're going to want to roll your sweatband over towards the inside of the cap. Place your closure in between the outside and the sweatband and seal that off. This is so you cover up those raw edges. You will want to repeat this process for the opposite side. Now we are putting eyelets as vents for the side panels. And right here, we're just making an estimate on where the center is at. You can go ahead and get more detailed and measure it out. We're just doing this quick to show you. Cut your holes and install your eyelets. Most fabric stores will have eyelets and pliers or presses, so those are fairly easy to find. You can get them in all sorts of colors, and they work well for vents. final step I highly recommend doing is steaming your cap on some sort of a block. This will make your sweatband go up nice and flush and just make all your bias tape nice and flat on the inside, allowing for a nice fit. And if you don't have a steamer handy, you can always use the steaming application on any iron. This works just as well. You just want to really get that hot steam of any sort on those edges and around that sweatband to make for a nice fit.
Lovers, truly been good to me. Not even one Sunday or minute of my life since you came my way. Lovers, truly.
So there you have it, everyone. That's how you make a 5-panel baseball cap on your domestic sewing machine, and you can use this process for all of the other patterns we have. So if you were to say you want to do the triangle cap or the trucker cap, you can do the exact same process on your domestic sewing machine. Just follow along those basic steps and you can make all your caps. So we will be releasing more of these, all of them on domestic, but if you want to jump ahead, go for it. I recommend it because it's the same exact process. And thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. And if you have any other suggestions on videos for the future, send them our way. We're more than happy to do some new stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching.